This is Neutral Ice.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend.
Those who want a tank, and those who don't.
There comes three back to the point. And she scored! The shot taken from the point. Gagne let it go. I don't know who touched it, but somebody did, and Arizona's back in the lead.
The Coyotes scored! They have the lead once again. Yes, the tank is still intact. Now that's a team that knows how to play hockey.
Buffalo's best hockey show every Monday night.
Bogosian got checked from behind, however, and the Sabres keep it in. Score! Gianna ripped it in the corner of the net, and another power play goal ties it at 3.
No! No! Why? Why would you do that, Gianna? Don't you know what's at stake here? Come on!
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Now Ekman Larsson thought about it. Gives it to Gagne. Shoots, he scores! And the Coyotes, for the second time on this road trip, have won it in overtime.
Thank God the Coyotes won. Take that, Buffalo. You can use that to reinforce the tank. Yes, I'm so happy. I hope I never have to do anything like this again.
Now, here are your hosts, Nick Lippa and Jack Sullivan on Buffalo's Regional Alternative, 91.3 FM, WBNY.
91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the Buffalo State College Student Activity Fee. We are Neutral Ice, and we are the best hockey show in Buffalo, in town. Get your seats warm and your popcorn ready.
Are you sure about that?
Oh yeah, we definitely are.
She is sure.
Good news, because our panel of people, which include Brayton Wilson here on the sound effects board and the board control, in the board control.
Uh-oh, we got B-Lippa.
In the board control.
Oh, no.
In the board control.
Oh, my God.
I was waiting for something from the board to be played, but nothing happened.
Oh,
our chemistry is off, just like the Sabres lines, as Cody Hodgson moves back to the fourth line for tonight's game, which we'll talk more about. But we got Frank Akiri in the other room, along with Chris Kowalchuk. Thank you.
Hi.
And we got Derek Kramer.
You're right.
Oh, yeah, baby. Starting it off hot.
And we got Joe DiBiase.
Yeah, Joe
Is Joe in here?
Yeah, Joe finally decided to join us. Way to be late.
Sorry, I was running late. I was babysitting some of the Leaf Scouts, and their parents were running late.
Oh. Okay, so.
Yay, Leaf jokes.
Oh man, actually, we'll get to that late. We'll talk about that later, because we're going to talk about the draft, and we're going to talk about the potential teams who could get Connor McDavid, and that'll be a little bit of fun. But we got lots to talk about. One of which, it is the Super Bowl for the Buffalo Sabres, folks. That is right, the Super Bowl, as in.
Wait, you try to win the Super Bowl though.
Oh, you do, and you tried to win the Super Bowl, Chris. The winner of the Super Bowl, though, in tonight's game has to lose, because losers win in this case. So in this case, the team that loses gets to go to Denny's. Because Denny's is for winners.
Who's paying?
So, I don't know. Probably Cody Hodgson with his large amount of contract that he has. Yeah. But that being said, the Sabres face the Arizona Coyotes tonight. If you're not if you don't live under a rock, I mean, all of Buffalo is buzzing about this game, as it has come to the forefront really over the past week. It has been this way the entire second half of the year. Like at the beginning of the year this year, as far as fans are concerned, whether you're a real fan or you're not a real fan, as far as tanking is concerned and what you believe in, the beginning of the year, everybody was just like, all right, you have your opinion. That's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to deal with it too much. Then you get about halfway through the year, we get towards the trade deadline, and you're just like, come on. That's not. Now it's really starting to annoy me. Or if you're Chris Kowalchuk and are on a hockey show, you were annoyed 2 weeks into the season. But besides that.
I was annoyed like the first time it was brought up, but that's besides the point.
Then you get to basically the past 2 weeks, and all hell has broken loose here in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is nuts. We're broken into thirds as far as the society is continued. You have people who just don't care either way. That's about a third. Then you have a third of people who really want the tank, like are aggressive about the tank. And then you have a third of people who are just like, no, I hate you. You're not a real fan. Real fans don't root against their team. So there's this huge thing in Buffalo right now, and the past week has done it, and everybody lost their marbles really Thursday when the Sabres lost to the Coyotes, and you could hear it in Brayton's playing. You heard how happy people were when Gagne scored. Like, they were really, there were not boos. There was an excited clapping, and that's not because Arizona ranks in the top 5 for fans in the NHL around the country, and just there's Arizona Coyote fans everywhere.
Wait, they're not in the top 5 of fans?
I am sorry.
What?
I thought there were so many fans on Thursday at the game.
It's funny
I
because
thought Arizona had many fans.
there is the.
I was there. There were people that had Sabres jerseys that had duct tape on the back of them and it said "Go Coyotes."
Yeah.
Joe wore a bag on his head.
I wore a bag on my head with a smiley face.
Yeah.
And it said #embrace the tank on it.
Oh dear.
He's got to clarify. But
I was one of the ones on Thursday that was quite into it.
Did you stand up and cheer?
Oh, I went crazy.
Oh.
See that I know there's
we
some
gonna
guys.
have problems.
There were some people there that went nuts. I only went nuts on the overtime goal, to be honest. But some people went nuts for all the goals. Like, there was the one guy next to me. It's probably like middle-aged gentleman, probably like late 40s, early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Whispers to me middle of the second period when the Coyotes took the lead or Coyotes scored. He's like, "All right, I'm not going to stand up and cheer like you just did, but here." Shakes my hand underneath, or gives me a high five underneath the chair. So, like,
okay.
Some people didn't want to display it, but most of the people there were on board.
Okay, I was at the Devils Sabre game the other night, and I actually tweeted this, but I was like waiting in line at the bathroom, and some guy walks up to me, he goes, shakes my hand, looks me in the eye, and goes, "Thank you so much." Like I had just given him
like Chris had
given
something
him
to do with
food
it.
that he hasn't eaten in years.
It's getting intense.
That is Chris Kowalczyk. You have given the greatest metaphor for Buffalo Sabres mentality, just Buffalo fans in general mentality. You talk about teams that lose. The Sabres have not been a serious contender since the Chris Drury, Daniel Briere days, which is a long time for Buffalo Sabres fans when you're a Bills fan because you have to deal with them losing all the time. So realistically speaking, yes, getting a player like Jack Eichel or Connor McDavid is basically like a team that's been starved. I mean, think about it. The best player the Sabres have had besides Hasek since the French Connection. You'd probably I mean, oh my gosh, you'd probably have to say along the lines of basically Daniel Briere / Chris Drury. I mean, you could make a case for Shatan
or Ryan Miller,
or maybe Miller at the goaltending position. Yeah, I wish, but really. They've been kind of deprived of a goal scorer. The Sabres have really never had that kind of goal scorer on their team that's had presence in the NHL. Nobody's faced the Sabres and been like, man, I'm afraid of that offense. Maybe besides when Briere and Drury were playing. And they're kind of starved, Chris. You're right. So the opportunity to get Eichel or get McDavid, which can we all agree are going to be 2 stars in the NHL?
Absolutely.
I'm banking on it. I just bought an Eichel jersey.
Hope so.
Yeah. And I want to talk about this a little bit more for people. So I am somebody, and we'll have everybody gets to get their argument here.
Yep.
And we're going to have the discussion now. Here, and I will start with mine. So you have, I am on the side of tanking. So if you're on the side of tanking, say aye. Brayton Wilson?
Aye.
Joe DiBiase?
Aye.
Chris Kowalczyk?
Say nay.
He's impartial.
No comment.
No. Okay, that's fair. You could do it. Derek Kramer?
Nay.
Okay, and then last but not least?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have 1 nay and 1 no comment. So Chris Kowalczyk will be the neutral judge to just rip into both parties here, which will be fine.
Okay, I understand it, and I understand why there are supporters of this, and eventually, hopefully, like a good thing comes out of it. But I think to cheer for the other team scoring is so absurd.
It feels dirty. Let me say this right now, though. Let me say this right now. It doesn't for me personally.
Just sit, but I don't understand why you can't just sit there and be quiet.
Because
In
I
my
get it.
mind,
Because
it's the Sabres.
here's the deal. Because I'm emotionally invested in the Sabres getting better for the future.
Okay, so
You could have shook the hand like the guy did with Joe.
Yeah, but who cares? You just want the people to be dishonest, man? Are you just against outgoing people who feel about their opinion? You don't get. So this is my question to people who are, they're against the idea of tanking or rooting specifically for the other team in these games.
Okay, I'm listening.
Why does it matter if somebody's outgoing or not? Does it bother you that somebody shows their excitement when they score? They're obviously excited. The only difference, whether they sit down or they physically show it, the only difference is they're sharing this tanking experience with everybody else in the crowd who clearly wants this to happen as well. So what's the difference? The only thing is you get to celebrate the tank with everybody else.
My biggest thing about it is that it gave Buffalo kind of a black eye in a sense.
Does it really?
No,
I mean,
I don't think it did.
Chris Kowalchuk, how well do you know the Mario Lemieux getting drafted story?
I don't really.
Okay, well, I bring that up because you're a Devils fan. And for all the NHL, oh yes,
I was
yes,
late on that one.
Here,
Sorry.
it's okay. Here's the story. Brayton, do you remember how Mario Lemieux became a Penguin?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, thank you. I'm putting people on the spot here. I'm sorry.
I was
Tankers.
alive back in Vietnam. That's,
all right.
It was back in
Here's
when the Penguins tanked for Lemieux. They no, I'm not even good about it.
No, but you're absolutely right.
A for
Though
effort,
they
A for
did
effort.
they did tank for Lemieux, and the Devils were the front runners to win the Mario Lemieux taking. Which, by the way, if you had to pick an individual who was a better hockey player than Wayne Gretzky the past 25 years in hockey, who would you pick?
Sean Bergenheim!
Well done, soundboard.
Mario Lemieux is recognized. Some people said Lemieux, if was healthier at times during his career, may have been comparable to Gretzky good.
If he didn't get cancer and have to retire and then come back later on, he might have been the only player that could have contended for Gretzky's
How
record.
much different is the New Jersey Devils franchise if they get Mario Lemieux?
They very well have won more. I mean, they had Brodeur, but when did Brodeur get drafted?
1994.
And when did Lemieux get drafted?
Well, Brodeur might have been 93. Lemieux got drafted in 84.
So you may not have gotten Brodeur because your teams would have been better.
Yeah.
But so that's something. But that being said, the Devils were the front runners, and the Penguins, at the deadline, I believe, sold their entire. They sold everybody. They had a goalie at the time in the second half of the year. The Penguins did now. Keep this in mind because the Sabres are doing the same thing. Tim Murray, I think, knows his history a little well. The Penguins had a goalie that was doing too good. So what he did is he called up a goalie from the AHL, had him play, and in 5 games let in over 30 goals at the end of the year to help secure the number 1 pick in the NHL draft. And it's actually one of the biggest reasons why the NHL now has a draft lottery is because of the Penguins sucking for Mario Lemieux.
It's not like the Devils got shafted in the draft either. They still got Kirk Muller, but yeah, there's a huge difference between Kirk Muller and
Mario Lemieux.
So humongous big.
Are you?
Yes, so humongous.
I nailed it that time.
Are you? So are you trying to say right now that Kurt Muller, great player, but Mario Lemieux, the stuff of legends?
Yeah, but
yeah.
This is the big difference.
So
generational versus great player.
And that's the big difference because you have potentially 2 generational players in Eichel and McDavid in this draft. You're talking about this could be the biggest draft of the 21st century for a long time, just because of how big the top 2 names are.
Not only that, but the list of names after McDavid and Eichel are actually pretty impressive too.
Yeah,
and me and Joe can attest to that because we've been
those are the Kurt
following it
Mullers.
Those
all
are the
year.
Kurt Mullers, which are great players. But realistically speaking, the stuff of legends you're talking about, and this is my point right now. McDavid. He is on a points per game pace only seen by Crosby, really, when he was in the OHL.
Not even that.
Eichel is on a points per game pace in the NCAA.
He's on a 2.5 points per game pace right now.
Only matched by a player who played in a different generation. That's Paul Correa. He's the only other player in the NCAA that can say he did what Jack Eichel is doing. Eichel is doing amazing things. You have these players who are doing that. Now, let me refresh memories because the closest player I can think of at this talent coming out of the draft is a guy like Crosby coming in. And Crosby, at the ripe age of 18, 19 years old, in his first year, you guys remember how many points he scored? He scored over 100 points.
He had something like
102.
160 some odd points.
He had 102 points his first rookie year. He did have 160.
Oh, wait, no, that was his
back.
draft year that he had 160 points. I didn't hear you say his rookie year. Sorry.
Yeah. But he had 102 points. He was an absolute monster. Okay, and let me ask this question right now: the difference between Hanifin and a player like Eichel or McDavid. All right, the Sabres have a player on their first line like Eichel, and he gets 102 points next year on their first line with Evander Kane and Tyler Ennis. Do the Sabres contend for the playoffs?
Yes, I'm a little skeptical of the possibilities of that though, because the New York Times today wrote that Eichel may consider going back to college next year.
That's a BS report, and I'll say that
I
because
agree
there's another report that came out with that a week ago talking about that, and basically the realism of that situation was the odds were like 1 out of 100 that he would go back to BU.
I agree it would never happen. I just think it's an interesting talking point.
It's a fluff piece to sell more articles. It's not a realistic piece. That's what I don't like about that article. That's basically like, oh well, he could go to, but here's the fact. fact Buffalo has so many pieces in the draft, and this is why you're not going to be for taking another year. If Buffalo starts talking about tanking for Austin next year.
Well, remember next year there's a lottery for the first 3 picks, so there's no guarantee. Like if the lottery rules from next year were in this year's draft, then there would be no reason to tank because the Sabres would be guaranteed Eichel or McDavid.
You still would because it would give you a higher probability.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be guaranteed.
You wouldn't be guaranteed. You could finish
but you'd rather have a better probability than not having. Let me ask you this question right now: do you want a 5% chance or a 20% chance?
But I mean,
you don't like it. But
I'd rather have a 20, but I'm not tanking for that.
So, all right. I go by the math. I'll tell you right now. If there's 2 players that are basically like, hey, Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby are here, but, I'd rather have a 5% chance. I don't have a problem with that. No, if I'm a GM, I'm like, no, screw it. I wasn't going to win this year anyways. There's no point in me. What do you get from finishing 5th last? What benefit do you get as a team?
Winning the lottery and being the Devils.
Yeah, that's it. But realistically speaking, if you can't compete, there is no benefit for a team to win by this point. The Penguins realized this when they got Lemieux, and that's why was the Penguins franchise changed forever?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Okay, so my point being here, do your research, anti-tankers, all right? Look at the history. Look how it's been in the NHL.
I acknowledge the reality of what, the tanking
It doesn't
is.
feel good now for some people. I've just embraced it. It's fun when you embrace it. It's the only time you're ever going to get to embrace losing.
Honestly, I've only jumped, I've been on the fence about this all year. It's been something that's been tough for me to deal with.
Oh.
But the thing is, I was at that game Thursday, and now I just want the most amount of people to be hurt in all of this.
But that was the most entertaining game I've been to all year.
Why would you turn down a talent like Connor McDavid? That's the thing.
Honestly, it's not about anything to do with the franchise anymore. It's about the fan base. It's about the unholy crusade that started with Jeremy White and rode a wave through the fan base. That's exactly it, Lipa. I'm angry that my experience was ruined. So now I want other people to
it still affects you.
Yeah, but
it doesn't affect me at all. I'm a Sabres fan.
Yeah, so the Sabres getting McDavid affects you.
I could care less if they have Hanifin, honestly.
Why should the Sabres...
Either way, I'm going to cheer for them.
Why should the Sabres...
Either way, I'm going to cheer for them.
Wait, why should the Sabres fan base, being intelligent enough to recognize the value, be blamed more than the Arizona fan base, who doesn't even know who the 2 players are?
That's a little. I have to abstain here. I have to object. I have to say you need to give Arizona's fan base a little more credit.
Yes.
Okay. Even though it may only be a handful of people, you have to give them a little more credit.
But I'm saying on a whole, you're not going to hear them cheering against.
No, you will not. And in all honesty, I mean, I'm not sure there's many other cities where this would be embraced as hard as it is. I mean, only rivaled by a team like Toronto, maybe, if they were bad enough, where the fans would literally be just embracing the opportunity to have a chance.
And this is the only real thing that I have a problem with, is the fact that, it really, to me, it just looked bad. It looked like something
what looks bad about it?
I thought it looked good, honestly.
I think it looks good too. I don't think it's shameless. I think it's a reality that people just don't want to confront. They have this notion that there's this sense of pride that comes with having to win in this scenario, when in all reality, nobody is going to give a crap who won a game last year between the Sabres and Edmonton Oilers when they played. Nobody remembers that.
Like I said, I still, for the fate of the franchise, would rather see them land McDavid or Eichel. But now I'm just mad. That's all it is.
The fans are just supporting what the franchise is doing, right?
I understand that, but
that's all that's happening.
All I want to say is
the fans didn't choose to put Tyson Strachan and Andre Mazzaros on the ice. That was an organizational decision.
Yeah, I know
and the fans are just supporting.
And a smart one at that, because in all honesty, Buffalo should know this better than maybe this is why Buffalo's embracing the tank more so than anybody else. Buffalo understands. What's the first thing Darcy Regier did when he got to this organization, or when Terry Pegula took over the organization? I'm going to sign
the word sucker.
Cried.
I'm going to sign Christian Ehrhoff to a 10-year deal. I'm going to sign Ville freaking Leno to a huge deal. I'm going to bring in Robin Regier. I'm going to put Band-Aids over all the situations, and we're going to make the playoffs as an 8 seed because Nathan Gerbe is going to be one of our top offensive producers. There you go. And the realism of that situation is the Sabres made a playoff push with that team because of how good Marcus Foligno, Drew Stafford, and Tyler Ennis were on a line together. And that's it.
Darcy Regier also put way too much faith in the core that he drafted.
Absolutely.
Jason Pominville, Derek Roy, Drew Stafford, Ryan Miller. That core, it failed. And
with Chris Drury and Daniel Briere, they had a chance, but they didn't have those kind of star players. They weren't able to get those players in because in the NHL, those kind of players almost never hit free agency anymore. And because of that, they weren't able to do that. So Buffalo's alternate option going through free agency is only going to lead to maybe an 8th or 7th seed at best at this point with
Nick,
their current core.
I know. I've accepted the reality.
Well, then take this reality and apply it. Get over. This is to all the anti-taggers out there, and I'm sorry, I'm being rough and I'm being rough.
I understand.
Get over the pettiness factor that you hate some people who can be in it with it in your face. It's why you hate Boston fans so much a lot of the time.
Again, I honestly want to see is some of the Buffalo media that's been pushing this every day.
But Derek, you're gonna.
I just want to see them cry on the air.
You are gonna get that. You are going to get that more so, and it's the crazy media, the people you hate. You'll get that from when they get Eichel and not McDavid.
Here's what's going to happen is that whether we get McDavid or Eichel, it doesn't really freaking matter who we get. People are not going to care about this, and in a couple of years, people are going to say, "Well, you know what? We tanked; it was worth it, and we got our superstar talent we've always wanted on this team. So why should it matter, anyways? 3 years down the road, sure, we could talk about it right now, but it's not going to freaking matter. Well, 3 years down the road. It's not.
I think this is going to matter because this is a moment in sports history, everyone. And this game against Arizona Coyotes, this is bigger than the NHL at this point. I don't think people have fully realized it in the national media yet. It should be talked about because name the last time you've seen a franchise fan base such as the Sabres have right now embrace a tanking like no other. We saw the 76ers in basketball lose 26 games last year, and the Milwaukee Bucks still got the worst record in the league last year. And everybody's pissed off in those markets as far as that goes. And the Sixers are tanking this year, and their fan base is not reacting to it in the way like, oh, well, it's that. They're more so like in kind of Chris's boat where everybody's like, well, it happens. I understand we're going to get a good player next year, and we're building for the next 2-3 years in basketball, which is the best next comparison to hockey because of the draft lottery system.
Now, Nick, the only difference between me and the true anti-tankers here is that I just want to watch the world burn.
No, but some of the anti-tankers are the same way. Like, for example, Chris Kowalczyk, when he speaks out against this, he just wants the fans to shut up, really.
He just wants the Devils to get Connor McDavid.
It's not the fans. He wants Joe to just shut up.
Chris Kowalczyk.
He's smiling. It may be right.
It's true.
All right. Either way, Chris has a personal connection. Here's my point with this. Can you name a time in sports history right now where a fan base embraced the tank?
The Miami Dolphins.
No.
For Andrew Luck.
No, they did not. They did not tank.
There was a little bit, but not.
There was a little bit.
I thought you were saying the fan base.
Yeah, no, the fan base. No, he's right. The fan base, but that wasn't even collective. That wasn't like the entirety. Part of that's because Miami doesn't have a very good fan base. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans, you don't.
They don't.
Yeah, my father's a Dolphins fan. Dad, I love you. You are a true Dolphins fan. I just wish more people in Miami showed up to games. I don't know what to tell you.
You say that about every Miami sport.
But that's absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Chris.
It's true.
That being said. So you had the Andrew Luck you would think would be like the next best tanking situation. I mean, even the Colts, they beat the Houston Texans, I think, in week 16 that year. People were just kind of like, whatever. Because they had Peyton Manning on the back burner. There was kind of this relief with Andrew Luck and the Colts where it was like, well, if we don't get Luck, we'll be fine at 2 because we could just keep Peyton Manning and we'll be okay.
That's a different thing in itself.
But that would have been the best chance you would have had. Think about all the other teams in any sport. You have not seen a fan base embrace this. This is big for sports. If Buffalo gets a franchise-changing player, if Buffalo wins a Stanley Cup in the next 15 years, and it's because of McDavid or because of Eichel, there's going to be a documentary made on the tanking for McEichel. Yes. This is huge right now.
ESPN. What if I 30 presents?
Yes.
The tank for McEichel.
Go back and look at him. There's a 30 for 30 on why the Oilers' former GM is no longer allowed in Canada because they can't guarantee that his life's protected when he traded Gretzky.
Peter Pucklington.
So, this is a real big issue right now in Buffalo. And something that everybody should take note of.
Certainly unprecedented.
It's a big issue as well in the broadcast media too.
Absolutely. Howard Simon actively Howard Simon actively on Twitter during the game talking about how frustrated he was with Sam Gagner missing one of the most open nets I've ever seen in regulation.
It's not only the Buffalo media. It's our own media too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We are as well.
We've got something here, and it's very short, but I think it's from Gord Duff. Let's take a listen.
Let's take a listen.
Sorry I'm late. Got caught up in some traffic. All right. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, no.
No, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing this game again. You can't tell me I have to do this game again. These teams aren't even that good. I mean, look at it out there. The Sabres don't even have their regular team. They called everybody up from Elmira. And the Coyotes don't even have a coach. They're just letting the players go out there and play on their own. I'm not doing this. No. I'm not putting myself through this anymore. You can't make me do this. I'm out of here.
That was everything the Edmonton Oilers wished Craig McTavish would do. Just get up and leave so somebody else could replace him. Sorry about that. That one's for our good friend Shappy out there, our music director. Oilers struggle again. The only thing I'm going to find funny is if the Oilers, after all these changes to the lottery selection, get the first-round pick again this year. That would be sweet because that would be kind of a suck it to Gary Bettman.
I'm sick. I want to throw up.
Yeah, exactly. Most people would be like that. Yeah, but we're going to talk about what teams we wish. We're going to talk about which team we wish don't get the first overall pick in this lottery. There's got to be a team that all of you guys do not want to see get the number 1 overall pick, but we're going to discuss that and more, as well as Carey Price and his chance to tie a Montreal franchise record next on Neutral Ice.
Coyotes tiptoe in the snow after dark, at home with the ghosts in the national parks.
91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo. Buffalo's original alternative since 1982. We don't suck. We're the best hockey show in Buffalo. Everybody give themselves a round of applause. We rock. We're not afraid to talk about anything, and that includes a tank situation, and I take pride. I'm with Howard Simon on GR with this one. Man, go Coyotes, go Yotes, because I understand what's at stake here. Simon brought up a really good point in one of his shows last week, and that was for all the people who are against the tank in Buffalo, if you are against the tank and you're okay with finishing second to last, and you're okay with the team besides the Coyotes or Sabres getting the first overall pick, and you don't get McDavid or Eichel, I never, ever want to hear you say, I wish we had one of these players on our team.
That's
ever.
fair. That is fair. That is something that comes with the territory. Absolutely, I agree with that.
Because I'll tell you right now, Hannafin's not a guy that comes into your team and changes the outcome of you getting a cup or not.
No, Hannafin's probably going to stay in college. Probably. And his draft stock is drop. It's not even a fact if he's going to be in the top 5 anymore.
Yeah.
It might be Mitchell Marner and Dylan Strome in the top 5, and then Lawson Krause right after that.
Again.
And then the next best defenseman might not even be Noah Hannafin anymore. It might be Ivan Provorov.
And
Or
for
Zach Werenski
and for all the guys and kids at home who did their research on 1984 when Lemieux was drafted, Kurt Mullen's a great player. But
Kirk Muller, yeah.
Kirk Muller, sorry. My apologies. My tongue's a little. I went 48 hours straight DJing over the past 2 days before today, so excuse me. I'm still shaking off some of the sleep over here. That was so perfect, Brayden. I think that's the best you've done. I would have laughed my butt off right now if I was in Studio B at that. You guys can rip into me all you want. I love it. I love every moment of it. That being said, I'm all for the tank. I know we got a couple people who are here, but I'm not for a couple of teams winning the lottery, and by couple I mean for me one. There's one team I would absolutely I would lose. Like, you'll hear me. We're going to cover the NHL draft here on the air at WBNY, and I can tell you right now that you want to say something? Or are you just
No,
saying
I'm just waiting for you.
Okay.
We all lean in anticipation.
If the Toronto Maple Leafs get McDavid, I'm just going to lose it. Like, this is the year they change so that some teams have a better percentage, get that, and all of a sudden McDavid ends up in Toronto, so Buffalo gets Eichel. I'm just going to throw the narrative, seat through the window, and I'm just going to get naked in the studio and just, I'm going to bathe in pig's blood.
Brayton's soundboard game is on point today.
It is.
It wasn't on point earlier, but now it's starting to come on point.
I cannot stand the idea of the low probability of the Maple Leafs getting McDavid, and then all of a sudden, you got this American-Canadian rivalry BS. I hate that idea, especially because how bad the Leafs have been. And from a Buffalo standpoint, the Maple Leafs at number 1, makes it a lot harder for the Maple Leafs potentially for things that they're trading, or maybe it doesn't.
Oh,
I don't
never
really know.
do it.
Yeah,
you're not prying them
no,
away.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the realism that the Leafs are going to trade one of their goalies away for a potential price, and a guy like Kessel.
They're going to trade everybody away in the offseason.
But all of a
if
sudden,
they get McDavid, I bet they don't trade anyone.
Exactly.
I think they
which
just
is
go
what
for it.
which is why it makes me sick to my stomach. I hate that idea. That being said, the Maple Leafs. I could not stand the Maple Leafs. It would seem too. That's the only time. And I'm sorry, it sounds like crazy talk, but it's the only time I think where I'd be like, Edmonton can win it again, but I'd be like, there's something fishy here, like fixed fishy. I'll say it. I don't care. It's just that's for Toronto at a low probability win. I don't care if the Devils win. I don't care if any other team wins. Just not the Maple Leafs.
Here's the thing, though. They're doing it a different format this year.
I know. That's
which I think is in itself not a great idea, but it may help clear up some of the people's fixation theory that people have with the NHL. Apparently what they're doing is they're doing the draft lottery live during an intermission of a playoff game, and it's going to be live, and they're going to pick everything, and they're going to do everything with who wins it. Yeah, basically, they had a video 2 years ago when the draft was in New Jersey of them doing the draft lottery beforehand, and it's weird how it works. I don't know if any of you guys saw this video. They picked like 5 balls. It was like 3, 5, 8, 11, and 6 or some crazy number like that. There were 14 balls altogether. And I can't remember how they... Joe, do you remember how they determined that?
So each team had a series so it was like... Because there's like 100%. So I think I don't know.
I think that year Colorado won the draft lottery. They were second.
Yeah. So say they had like 25% odds. I think they had 25 different number combinations with the 5 digits or something like
that. Makes sense.
Like each team had a certain amount of number combinations with the 5 digits, and then they picked 5 balls, and whoever had that number combination won the lottery.
Right.
Like it was kind of weird, but
yeah. I think it's a really cool, unique way, and I think they need to do that again this year in order to have that. But I mean, again, Buffalo's got a 20% chance of winning this year. The next best team is 13.5%.
They're not going to. They're not going to win. I just don't want to see. I'm asking you guys. Say your thing, Joe.
They should get a bunch of pieces of meat, make each one bigger depending on who has better lottery. Put some kind of dog in the middle, and then see which piece of meat the dog goes to. And that's how they determine.
That's creative. I'll give you that.
Creative.
Well, what I think they should do is that Tim Murray should undercook everybody's all the general managers' meat before the draft lottery. So all the general managers get food poisoning, so they can't be there to accept the draft lottery award.
No conflict of interest there. Oh boy. No. But the Maple Leafs, it's. I don't want to sound petty. It's not because I'm a Sabres fan. I mean, think about it. The Leafs haven't really been a contender for a long time now. It's just the idea of somebody being made better. You watch the NHL and how hard they've tried to make Arizona a thing in the NHL, and it just leads you to be like, come on, don't do that. You have people who seriously does anybody in this room think Sidney Crosby on the Penguins was fixed? Because there's a group of people that seriously believe that out there.
No.
Okay.
No, honestly, I don't.
It's done by a third party. That company would have no business. They'd be gone.
Yeah. No, I'm just you have those people who are there, but and
of course,
and it's really, and I'm talking about this now because people do have their things.
People have their conspiracies.
They have their conspiracy theories. I really don't. I don't believe it. I don't believe that it's there. But that being said, as a fan, anybody but Toronto. Does anybody have their no situations? Anybody but team?
I'm gonna agree with anything but Toronto.
Philly.
Am I allowed to say Boston?
Yes.
Okay. Boston.
Oh my God! If Boston missed the playoffs and gets it
that would be the worst case scenario. I think it'd be funny if San Jose wound up with them, considering they've never rebuilt in their history, and they would just it's just we were bad here. Oh, here's Connor McDavid.
You know what's really interesting, and we're going to talk about Carey Price soon here. Is that if San Jose, whether or not they were to win the lottery or do something like that, the realism, and somebody brought this up to me earlier this week. If Joe Thornton gets put on the trading block, and you're the Buffalo Sabres, you give up your second first-round pick to get Joe Thornton and put him on the team. And
second overall pick?
No, your second first-rounder.
Oh
yes.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah. And would the Sharks accept a deal like that for Joe Thornton?
I would think they would want a little more.
Yeah, I would think that they wouldn't. I mean, but then again, Doug Wilson, if he's retained, that that chance goes up.
So, and the reason I ask this question is, and this is what people I don't think get about Murray. All the writings on the wall is that he's going to tank this year, but he's not going to next year. A signing like Evander Kane, you wouldn't play a guy like Evander Kane. You're not going to be able to. There's going to be too many good guys for this team to be able to tank again next year, unless Tim Murray goes out of his way to sabotage the team. And the question I have is that, could you imagine the Sabres in the draft getting a center the caliber of Joe Thornton or a winger, in addition to Kane, Ennis, Molson, McEichel, any of these players? And my question with all this, everything we've talked about, if Eichel or McDavid are anything close to what Crosby was like in his rookie year, do the Sabres contend for a playoff spot next year?
That depends on the goaltending.
If he has
Depends
100,
on the goaltending entirely.
well, if he has 102 points, you'd have to think so.
And remember, Crosby was with Malkin, correct?
That still depends on the goaltending.
Yeah, Crosby
Not
had a
his
great rookie year.
Crosby was with Lemieux in his rookie year.
It was Lemieux, okay, yes.
Yeah.
But Lemieux retired like halfway through the year, though.
But
And
still.
But yeah, he still had.
He
Lemieux,
still had a
like,
great rookie year, and the Penguins were still awful.
Yeah.
By the way, our game of the night is Tampa Bay and Montreal. It's tied 1-1. The Canadiens just scored. We'll get to that in a second. Let's continue this current thought of conversation. So, yes. So, you guys were talking about Lemieux being on the team. Yes, he had points around him, but think about it. McEichel, you're going to have Kane and Ennis. And anybody who's seen Ennis right now the past 2 months knows Tyler Ennis has been playing like he's the goods. I mean, that goal he scored against Mike Smith was just dirty. He made it look easy.
He's getting better.
He scored
too.
a lot of goals like that this year.
He has, though.
He's been Buffalo's best offensive player all year. Hands down, I don't think anybody else compares to it. Maybe Zemgus Girgensons is the closest, but, I mean, Girgensons can't stay in. I mean, he isn't in the lineup right now.
Yeah.
But I mean.
Pick Joe.
Joe, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm in love with Tyler Ennis this year. Like, I can't. On this team, the way he's improved, like, especially with his stick handling, like, looks like it's off the charts. Like, I really think he has, like, capability of being an elite player if he's with a McDavid.
If he's
or
tagged up with someone,
if you have a line of Ennis, McEichel, and Kane next year, and then your second line has a group of guys like Molson, Girgensons, and then somebody else you'd
Like
either pick up,
Reinhart?
or a guy like Reinhart,
Ryan O'Reilly.
or a guy like Ryan O'Reilly, who, by the way, Brayton talked about him all up, and you're looking at his stats this year for all those guys a month ago, and you're like, I don't know what he's talking about. And a goal by Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay can score goals fast.
They're making us pay attention.
Yes, I know. And we will get to you, Tampa Bay.
They're like, hey,
Stop
Wait,
scoring!
Can I ask a question? Was one of the goals by
Druin. Druin.
Okay, none of them were Kucherov?
I don't know. We'll get to that later.
Oh, we've got ulterior motives here.
Yeah. I benched him. Let's
All right.
continue.
Anyways, you're looking at those first two lines for the Sabres. I mean, that team's got good players, and they have young players throughout the system, and they have so many loaded prospects to trade, they can make moves. The reason I'm putting this out there is because when you take a guy like McEichel, and this is my last thing to say to anti-tankers, this has turned less to an open forum and more towards it. This is why you should tank, because because the majority of people, I just realized when confronted on the issue, understand the validity of it.
Yes, even I understand the validity of it.
But that being said, this team, they're not going to win a Stanley Cup next year, but they can compete for the 8th seed in the East. They definitely can compete for the 8th seed in the East with a guy like that, with the kind of production they could get from some of these other linemen. Because we just talked about Ennis. Let me ask you this, Joe. Joe, who was at the game? Frank, Derek, Joe?
Yep.
All right.
Pretty much all of us.
So, but Joe, you were pro-tanking, correct?
I was off the charts. I had my Myers jersey all taped up, looked like McDavid. I had my bag over my head. I had an I Like Ike T-shirt or an I Like Ike sign. Like, I was all. And did anyone see the Pray for McDavid sign on the arena?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I helped put that up, and I was in the picture that was on the Buffalo News and on ESPN.
Wait. Say all the things that you did again.
Okay. So
wait. I'm sorry. You brought a sign.
I brought a sign that said I like Ike.
Are you 7 years old?
Like, it was. What, people bring signs.
Yeah,
people
like
bring
7-year-old kids.
He can turn it. Look, the main point with this is, Joe, when Tyler Ernest came onto the ice, did you hold your breath because you have how good he was playing?
I think my heart stopped beating a few times.
Yeah, because Ennis literally gets on the ice, you're just like, he's gonna score. He's gonna score. That's all you could think of. That's how good Ennis has been. So you look at Ennis, you look at the Girgensons, how much he's improved. You look at
Ristolainen. Ristolainen has played amazing.
So, but we have a caller now in. It should be. Did you press on? Hello, caller. Are you there?
I'm right here.
Oh, okay. Who do we got?
This is Greg.
Greg, what's going on?
Just talking about the prospects you mentioned, and Girgensons, Ennis, Kane coming up here. wouldn't it make sense with the base that they have that if you get McDavid and you're in that number 1 spot and you got a guy number 2, wouldn't it make sense to just kind of take everything they're going to get you to jump from 2 to 1 and get more prospects and have Eichel instead of McDavid? Everyone's looked at it from the other side, but I think that it makes sense to think about it from a Sabres and the number 1 spot perspective.
Ooh, that's an interesting question because I heard someone mention earlier today, like, what if Arizona calls you on draft deadline and say, hey, we'll give you
I could dig that.
Our first round, we'll give you the second overall pick, and then we'll give you Domi and Duclair.
I would probably take that.
I think they'd give you like 4 first round picks.
I would even be greedy and ask for OEL.
I mean,
oh yeah.
Wait, you think there's that big of a difference between Eichel and McDavid that you get Domi and Duclair for
I
him?
don't, but I think
some people do.
The value
that.
Could be nuts.
Yes.
Monetarily, the value is there because you're just in jersey sales alone from the difference between McDavid and Eichel, I think is huge.
And some general managers really do think that McDavid and Eichel have that kind of a gap. Murray is one of them, actually. I'm suspecting.
It's going to depend on who the general manager is that gets the first pick.
It's going to depend on who's number 2, obviously.
Yes.
What did Tim Murray tweet, by the way, a while back? What did he say? He said, "I will make an offer if we do not get. I'm prepared if we do not get the number 1 overall pick."
Yeah, he's prepared to move. To attempt to move to number 1.
And what does that say about Murray? I think what that says is that he's going to be making a play for McDavid. And so,
well, what is the one thing GMs do?
Smoke screen as well.
That's a smoke screen.
GMs never do what they say. Yeah.
Very true. But that big either I think Murray's going to be trading. He's going to be open to trades either way. He's been wheeling and dealing whether he gets the first overall pick or
he's
doesn't.
Not scared.
He's not scared at all. I think this guy. I love what Murray's done. I love how just brash he's. Just how bold he's been with what he's done and how he's felt that he's like, I'm going to get a second rounder for Chris Stewart. It's going to happen. One team's going to cave in. Something's going to happen. I'm going to get something for Brian. I don't care. Take Brian Flynn. Give me something else. It's not going to help me now. He knows what he wants, and he's put together arguably, I think, a team that, Brayton, you mentioned this a couple of times on the show, a team that may be setting lows for Corsi that we may never see again in our lifetime.
Yeah, that's 100% the truth. This is
Corsi calamity.
This is, and I mean, I'm talking all situations Corsi, and the even strength Corsi. I'm not even going to get into because it is still astronomically just below everybody that it has been tallied up over the past since really Corsi became a thing. Buffalo has the lowest number, even strength, power play, all situation Corsi, and it's just disgustingly bad.
For all our football fans out there who are listening into the program, if you're trying to figure out how bad it is, it's Tampa Bay Buccaneers creamsicle jerseys bad. That's how bad it is. So it is the worst to be put it. Do we still have a caller here?
Yeah, no. Great show, guys. Thanks a lot.
Oh yeah, thanks for calling in and thanks for listening.
Yeah, appreciate
it. Thanks, Greg.
That was Greg. Greg's a cool guy.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for listening in. Loving it.
Thank you for calling.
We take call. I mean, we're happy to take calls. So if people are listening into the show and you ever want to give us a call like Greg, call us at 878-5104. And if your call is good, we'll try and put you on the air.
Absolutely. So you get through a pre-screening process.
I did like his question though. It is a very intriguing thought.
Absolutely, and a lot of things to play with. Buffalo, I think Murray's in the spot right now where he is going to look at McDavid and go, if he has to trade up, I think it's going to be too much. But the idea that if you get McDavid or Eichel, whether either way of the round, with the current prospects you have, I think they can compete for a number 8. But when you look at history, it usually favors the teams that give up a lot in this kind of scenario. That favors the team getting a return in a team sport. When you look at a guy,
you could look at the Lindros trade.
Yes, I was just going to say Lindros because they traded with Colorado, who was not Colorado. They weren't Colorado.
Quebec.
They were still Quebec.
They were Quebec, and they ended up getting players such as
Peter
Forsberg,
Sundin.
Did Sakic come from that deal?
Yep.
No.
Oh wait, no.
No, he was
drafted, but
he was
still.
drafted.
Sundin was a member of that.
Yeah.
And so you had the Avalanche's cup runs came from that draft, and how many cup runs did the Flyers get?
I mean, they went to the Cup once, and I think they went to the conference finals. Which I mean,
and it doesn't help that Lindros got concussions.
Yeah, right.
And the best player of the deal ended up being Peter Forsberg.
Right. Yeah. I'll say this. I mean, Philly did have very good teams for a very long time, but Colorado / Quebec still did win the trade.
So this is what I'm going to say on this matter, is that if you do your homework and you look at the history thus far, and the game's always changing, so there's always time for things to change up or a different outlook to happen, because if Lindros would have stayed healthy, we may be talking about how win-win that deal was. But realistically speaking, history favors the tankers, and it looks frowned upon the people who give up so much to where they can't make up ground. And most people, and the only other sport, I'm not going to go into this because we don't have time, but a discussion for another day, if you look over at sports, because of what the Bills have done this year, as well as the Herschel Walker trade with the Dallas Cowboys, where the Minnesota Vikings traded away all their picks to get Herschel Walker.
Oh, my God.
Which was unprecedented because the Los Angeles Rams got 6 picks in return from the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts for Eric Dickerson earlier in the 80s before Walker was traded there. But that being said, obviously he was a player in high caliber, and he retained all those picks. The Cowboys ended up making runs as arguably the best team of the 90s after that, and the Vikings were forgotten. And it was a new era and a new cap and all these kind of things. So there's a lot of other variables that were in play there. But if we go by history in sports, and we go by history big time in hockey, I think I'm just going to say it. I think you got to be a dum-dum not to be on support with this tank, and I think that you don't have to like it, but you have to comprehend why it's happening, and I think you have to accept it as a Sabres fan that it's better for the team in the future.
I have one more thing I'm going to add to that, Nick. As much as my evil self wants the amount of pain and frustration to be caused and stress for Sabres fans, I also acknowledge this reality. It's not going to happen. This means that the Sabres have to win 4 of their next 7 games, including tonight.
Yep.
And this team is not equipped to do that. Not at all.
I mean, they play Toronto.
I'm thinking that they beat Toronto, Carolina, and maybe Arizona. And this is also on the scenario that Arizona loses out completely, like not winning a game or registering a point.
All right, I'm going to change subjects here real quick, but I'm going to bring up something here because Tim Murray just spoke to TSN 1200. I believe that's in Ottawa. And he had some interesting quotes to say, and this is coming off of the feed of Jeremy White right now. He's live tweeting these quotes. He said some of the quotes, notable quotes that Murray said, quote, "They're both good players. Connor gets a lot of talk in Canada. We've talked a lot about him. We don't have, or you don't have the same interview request that you do about Eichel. It's very close. They're both probably franchise players. Jack deserves a lot of talk, a lot of praise, because he's a hell of a hockey player." And then he what goes on, and he says, "You have to have impact players to win in the NHL, and we think we're on our way to having a few. It's a different spin on it. It's a different spin to put it on. I can't control that. This is on tanking. It's a different spin to put on it. I can't control that. You can go back to all the teams that have won and haven't. I lost it. Damn it.
It's okay. It's okay.
The main point was enforced.
The main point was enforced. We're going to move on before that, but the only thing I want to say is to go on one with Derek and Joe were talking about. Yes, if the Sabres lose to Arizona tonight, it's basically wrapped up.
Yeah.
And that's the deal.
8 points out. It's for Buffalo to gain 8 points with 6 games left is very, 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 very.
Just say it's impossible.
It's very unlikely.
Low probability. That being said, if the Sabres win, you start holding your breath a lot, because then it's only 2 wins away.
Yes, but again, they also have the advantage in regulation overtime wins. They have less than Arizona. So this is also banking on the fact that Arizona gets 0 points in their next 8 games.
I think they've already clinched that tiebreaker, too.
Yeah, they've clinched that tiebreaker.
So, I mean, really, Arizona have to be 5 points worse.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, even that's not.
And
that's not. I think sportsclubsports.com had the Sabres odds at 95%.
I think 95.
Like even if the Sabres lose tonight, I still would bet that's going to be above 80%.
Here's the remaining schedule for the Arizona Coyotes. Arizona has 6 games left, including tonight. So against Buffalo tonight, then they have the Sharks. They have a home-and-home series with the Sharks.
Okay.
They go to the Flames. They go to the Canucks, and they finish the year at home against the Ducks.
All right.
Ducks could be out of any competition too by that point.
So to me, none of those are super tough games, but they're all decent teams.
I think they could win at least one or maybe even both against the Sharks. The Sharks are a bad team this year.
As far as the Western,
even against the Flames and the Canucks.
As far as the Western Conference is concerned, you couldn't ask for probably a easier schedule going comparative that almost every other team is in serious contention. The Flames and Sharks are both. The Sharks are basically out, and the Flames are on their way out right now, unless they get their stuff together here, because the Kings are making a hard press.
They spanked Nashville last night to give themselves back in it a little bit.
Yeah, but Nashville's been up and down this half of the season. So
and Rene wasn't starting, so I mean that could have contributed.
But that being said, with all this take talk and all the Sabres, and we've done a lot of it today.
Let's move on.
We're gonna move on a little bit from this transition. That was the take report. We'll have more to talk about that. Obviously, in a week from now, we'll know a lot more.
Hopefully, by next week, this time we'll be clinched up.
Yeah, hopefully by next week, it's just all done.
Last sentence to go on this one. It only took 5 games for the Penguins to tank to get Brodeur in the way they did when they benched their goaltender.
Penguins to get Brodeur.
I'm sorry, Lemieux. Sorry, Lemieux. Thank you. My head was somewhere else. No, but that's my point. It's never over till it's over. We know it in sports, and it only took it took a goalie giving up over 30 goals in 5 games for the Penguins to essentially get Lemieux.
So you mean Anders Lindback pre-Buffalo?
Yes, but Anders Lindback has been better in Buffalo, which is surprise, surprise. Markov got called up today.
You mean Makarov?
Makarov. I got words coming out of my mouth that don't make any sense.
That might be because of Hackett, because he's
Lindback is starting tonight.
Nick Lippa is starting to get fatigued because he went on a 48-hour spree here.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good now. Thank you. This is
He's
what
slurring his words. What did you put? What did you put in that ginger ale?
It was ginger ale.
Oh God, here we go.
It's got fun juice.
God, Harry Carey.
It's got fun juice, kids. I was on 91.3 FM WBNY Buffalo, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982, brought to you by the mandatory student activity.
All I know is I was sitting here yesterday at like 2 hours before Lippa's show ends, and he was like 91.3. He couldn't even finish like 91.3 FM.
Hey guys, I had a ham and bacon sandwich the other day. I decided to put some ketchup in it. And you want to know what it tasted like?
Ham and ketchup?
It tasted like a rusty chain.
Did you say ham and ketchup or Hammond ketchup?
Ham and bacon, ketchup and sugar.
I see what you did there, Joe.
Salt and
I see what you did there.
Oh my
Joe,
God.
Has anybody ever read the Book of the Galaxy?
It was a stretch.
Oh my.
That being said,
I'm gonna flop.
Moving
that,
on.
Joe.
Moving on. Do your history. Do your homework, tankers, anti-tankers. The thing we've learned is that history can repeat itself, and we can better position ourselves if we read up on it. And do that.
That's where you head.
That's it.
Next year we'll all be friends again.
Don't we have something about Carey Price to talk about?
And that's exactly what we're
I probably still won't be friends.
They're
with them
losing
either.
right now, so no.
So that being said, and that's exactly where we're going with this. Thank you, Derek. Carey Price, Montreal. Carey Price has a chance tonight to tie the Montreal Canadiens' record in a season for goalie wins, and he's losing 2-1 right now to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay scores all the goals. Tampa Bay is actually going for a sweep. Carey Price is pretty much going to have to play perfect from now until the end of the game, especially because the Lightning at this point in the second period have outshot the Canadiens 13-2. So, yeah, not too good right now for the Canadiens. I think this speaks volumes about the Canadiens team and what we've said a lot, which is the Canadiens are probably the worst team in the top 5 as our point standings are. In the league. I think they're the weakest out of the top 5 points teams, mainly because they're being carried by Carey Price. So Carey Price has a chance to tie that record right now for the Canadiens, which with the Canadiens' history, that is quite impressive. And I'm just going to ask this question again. I think we can get a lot of answers from it that are going to be similar, but Carey Price the MVP this year in the NHL, and I'm going to start off, I'm going to say yes. I want to know what you guys think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, Frank's got a yes. What do we got for Chris?
Oh, yeah.
Joe?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
And then Brayton.
I think that's a good case.
It's a good call. The reason why I bring it up again is because Ovechkin scored his 48th and 49th goal in what can be described yesterday as a very important game for the Washington Capitals, as Boston had won and as the Islanders have been struggling mightily. There's an opportunity now in the last week for the Capitals to actually make a run unless New York starts. Good news for the Islanders. 3 assists yesterday for Tavares, who has been a point hunger streak for some reason. But
Penguins have been struggling too.
Somebody needs to feed him.
I did. Brock Nelson. But you have.
But the song clearly states that Tavares gets the puck to Brock Nelson.
Yeah. Okposo.
Each must do his part.
Each must do his part.
It's each must know his part, but I didn't expect anybody else to know that.
Somebody wrote that line here. It was Chris Kowalchuk. But that being said, the Penguins have struggled as well. And that's a very good point. Penguins have struggled, and the Capitals can catch both those teams. So that's the question I ask right now. I want to ask this right now. If Ovechkin ends the year, and let's say the Capitals got, 7 games left? Seven games?
About that.
Six or seven? I think it's 6, actually. If Ovechkin scores, let's say 6 goals, a goal per game over the next 6 games, does he even challenge Carey Price, or has Carey Price basically got it locked up, in your opinion?
If they can climb into the top 3 of the Metropolitan, I think Alex Ovechkin might have a chance.
Do you think he wins in that case?
He'd have to put up not only a great end of the season, he's going to have to put up a heck of a playoff run too. Because again, it's not just the playoffs of the MVP of the regular season. I mean, it takes the whole season into account. I know there's a separate award for the playoffs with the Conn Smythe Trophy.
So realistically, you're saying that the individual season performance is going to actually most likely be influenced by what they do in the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I mean, I don't know what you guys think in Studio B, but I think that if Carey Price can't carry the Canadians, but yet Ovechkin carries the Capitals, then that's kind of swinging the bar in Ovechkin's favor over Price. But
what do you guys think?
I mean, to be fair, Ovechkin has also had a pretty stellar goaltender with Washington here this year in Braden Holtby.
Very true, but his goal scoring is really, they're the reason they won the past game. And that's why I'm bringing it up. I'm just wondering, a lot of the times people have a really good idea by the end of the regular season, who's going to be MVP. Like, it was this guy this year. It was him. This year, because it's a goaltender, you're in a little bit more unfamiliar territory. I strongly believe if a team like Washington gets paired up against Montreal or in the first round of the playoffs, there's a very good chance Montreal could lose because of that. And could you imagine if Washington bounces Montreal to the first round of the playoffs? Because
the opposite of what happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
When, Capitals were a first 1 seed and the Canadians won as an 8.
So does your opinion? I mean, my opinion would still hold true because I think Carey Price was the most valuable player for this team. He statistically raised this team higher. I think Ovechkin has more help in Washington this year, which is helping, but Ovechkin's still playing out of his mind. I just think any other year it would be Ovechkin's year. But Carey Price has been a monster. But if we're talking about, for me, I go Carey Price. I know all you guys go Carey Price. But now going into what you were saying, Brayton, what about the league? Could you imagine the Capitals beating the Canadians in the playoffs? And do you think the league still votes in Carey Price as MVP? Especially if Ovechkin has
depends on
a
how
game
the playoffs
winner.
go.
So I think it doesn't. Even if the Capitals lose the very next round,
right now it's fair to say Carey Price is the absolute clear-cut favorite to win the not the Conn Smythe, but the MVP award.
He's definitely going to win the Vezina this year.
Yeah, definitely should win the Vezina, absolutely no doubt. But I mean, it all comes down towards the end of the season in the playoffs. If you can keep up the pace of play, then yeah, I mean, why not?
So, any other thoughts on that situation right now?
Honestly, Carey Price could be safe in this. Like in your scenario of if the Capitals knock out the Canadians relatively quickly or something, if it's like a bunch of 1-goal games and like Price is keeping it at least at 2 or less a game and they still lose the series, then there's no way you can't give it to Carey Price.
Okay. All right, that seems to be the passion for that subject. It's all drained out. Everybody got their passion out during the tank talk.
Yeah.
But that being said, we're going to go around the NHL really quick. We got just a couple more minutes here with you before Jason comes on and talks about movies. Big game tonight, Calgary versus Dallas. Why is it big? Dallas trying to claw their way back in. Realistically, after that 4-0 debauchery against the Edmonton Oilers, they are in a win-out scenario for the Stars to have a chance. However, it's not impossible. Winnipeg does not face easy teams coming down the end of the stretch, nor does Calgary, who is being chased by Los Angeles. And Calgary, the team they're facing, who they beat 3 games ago, they're facing again tonight. And if they were to beat Calgary again and Kings win, I mean, the Calgary is going to be in the wild card spot looking down, and that's the team Dallas is going to be chasing along with Winnipeg. So Dallas does have a chance, but they got to win out. And like I've said before, I think it all comes down to your best player, Dallas. Keep Patrick Eaves in.
Dallas has won 8 of their last 10 games. That's huge.
Yeah, and if you listen to the Dallas media and a lot of what they've been talking about, a lot of rumors going around that if they don't make the playoffs, which is very realistic, it's a very small chance they get in at this point. They're going to need a little bit of help and they're going to need to win out. But Lindy Ruff may be fired, and Lindy Ruff made a comment about Kerry Lettinen a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw it, where he absolutely smashed Kerry Lettinen harder than
he's always been hard on his goaltenders.
He smashed him real hard. He basically just threw him completely under the bus. They asked him, what happened in the game, and he basically said, "Well, you need a goalie to stop some pucks sometimes," but went on and just continued smashing him.
He's been spoiled by Hasek and Miller.
Yeah, and I think that's more realistic, Joe. I do, because after that, something happened in Dallas. I think. I don't know what on, but the dynamic's been a little bit different. But I don't know what happened, and I think Ruff's on slim ice.
Ruff, I think, did that just to wake up the goaltending situation a little bit. I mean, Jonas Enroth has been sort of a dud since arriving in Dallas, but if you really think about it, since then, Kari Lettinen has been playing better. His defense in front of him is playing a little better, because you can't really have a good team if you don't have good goaltending and if you don't have a decent defense to back up that goaltending.
Well, that being said, one of the most overrated defensemen in the NHL plays for the Dallas Stars and was injured when they won a lot of these games, and Trevor Daley. Yes, he scores points, but to any Stars fan who watches Trevor Daley, you'll realize that the team plays better without him. Case in point, Trevor Daley's injured and the Stars go on a winning streak. And I know that sounds crazy, but realistically speaking, Trevor Daley is an offensive player that just does not play a good defensive game.
Dallas Stars have 6 games left. They are 6 points out of a final wild card spot. Winnipeg currently holding that with 90 points.
But soon to be also in contention. I will say this. Calgary, who's at 89 right now, because the LA Kings are chasing them hard, and guess who the Stars are playing right now? Tied 1-1.
The Calgary Flames.
Very, very important. Dallas loses tonight, they're out of the playoff race.
You would think so. Even an overtime game, that would be a huge crushing blow, because, I mean, they can't allow to give any of the teams they play against points.
Exactly.
And I think most of the teams that Dallas plays against are playoff teams.
And Winnipeg essentially faces none of those teams in the 8, 9, 10 area during the stretch of games.
No, they play top teams. They play some top teams.
They play some of the top teams. That's why I'm saying it's realistic right now. If Winnipeg is not on top of their game, and by the way, all of the Stars fans and all of the Kings fans can give a big shout out to Jonathan Toews. Thank you, Jonathan Toews.
I couldn't believe they won that game. I thought Winnipeg played so well too, and they just got killer at the end.
Yeah, but Winnipeg's got to be able to put together for the rest of the year. And as much as it would be great, I think, for a lot of fans in Winnipeg to see playoff hockey after being deprived of a team for so long, the realism of it is they have a tough schedule, and they could be bumped out by Calgary for the 8th seed if the Kings jump Calgary, or they could be bumped out by the Kings if Calgary goes on a winning streak. I think realistically speaking, the Stars are coming on hot. The Flames, while they've settled down, they still are fighting pretty hard. Winnipeg's got to be at top of their game. I'm looking at it right now. I think the team that's going to make the playoffs in that last spot is going to have about 96 points. And
what is Winnipeg's lead over the last playoff team right now? Is it 4?
No.
2.
It's 2.
To LA.
Okay. LA's the team out right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Calgary won.
I think this is.
However, Calgary has a game in hand. Winnipeg has a game in hand on the Kings. So,
Yeah.
Or actually, no, the Kings have a game in hand on both of those teams.
What is the Kings' remaining schedule? Like, is theirs tougher than
the next
say,
five?
Winnipeg's?
The next 5 games for the Kings. They go to Chicago. They're playing in Chicago right now, where they are currently down 1-0. Then they are home against Edmonton, home against Colorado, in Vancouver, and then in Edmonton.
I like that schedule.
They have an easy schedule.
That's
they should cruise.
And here's the deal: the tough schedule for LA was these past 4 games. The LA has had a crappy road record this year coming into this past 4 games. All logic said these 4 games, LA was going to play themselves out of a playoff spot if all the stats we've looked at all year make any sense. And what happened? LA defies logic. Because what happens at the end of the year? LA goes into New York and wins. They go on this road trip. They've been terrible all year and they just win. I don't know what it is. It's like you try to explain it to somebody, you're like, I got a gut feeling LA will show up. They have a press conference saying Mike Richards is a god to their fan base to try to make them feel better about going on this road trip. And what happens? LA wins. It just happens. Now at this point, LA's going to have to play especially crappy hockey not to make the playoffs, just because the other teams they're competing with have tougher schedules at the end of the year. And LA took care of their business against the really good teams. That's just the way it is. They could lose tonight, and it's not going to matter. They'll still probably get in.
Let's take a look at Winnipeg's next 5 games. They play at home against the Rangers, at home against Vancouver, in Minnesota, in St. Louis, in Colorado.
And Colorado, they're not eliminated yet, but Colorado's still playing hard as well at the end of the year. O'Reilly's on a 7-game point streak, I think, now. He's been super hot for the Avalanche, and that team's been clicking. So
that team, though, like, they've looked bad to me all year. Like, then they got outshot by the Sabres by like 15.
They are bad. They are bad, but they sometimes
they somehow win. Like they don't win a lot, but I mean,
guys,
they win more than I think they should.
When Colorado wins, what's happening? There's a guy in net that what's their guy in net doing?
Oh, he's standing on his head.
And what is he doing right now?
Standing on his head.
Colorado Avalanche have Varlamov standing on their head, just like the Hamburglar
I'm
did
going to
for
bring
a long
up.
period of time.
Well, now that's another point right there.
Yeah.
They are starting Craig Anderson over Andrew Hammond again, and that is where they are going downhill. They have played Craig Anderson the past 2 games, and guess what? They've lost both of those games.
Why do they want to lose?
I don't know.
You
want to win, and you want to get in the playoffs.
Yager made him look like a child yesterday.
But that doesn't matter.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It still doesn't matter.
No, that's what like Anderson should not be starting to me.
No, Anderson should not be starting. It should be Andrew Hammond. You ride the hot hand until you can't play anymore.
Yeah.
You play to win the game.
Exactly.
They remember the 2 teams right around them, Florida and Boston, play each other tomorrow. So someone's going to win that game.
They were 2 points ahead of Boston for a playoff spot. Now they're 3 points behind Boston for a playoff spot.
And they have jumped them.
7 games. They have 7 games left. Boston has 6. So granted, Ottawa has a game in hand on Boston, but still, from here on out, Dave Cameron of the Ottawa Senators should be starting Andrew Hammond because Andrew Hammond is their best goaltender that they have right now. Because Robin Lehner's still hurt. Craig Anderson is not a good goaltender anymore. He used to be a good goaltender. He's past his prime. You got to keep starting Hammond and ride him all the way until you can't ride him anymore, which is either A, you get eliminated from the playoffs, or B, you get eliminated from playoff contention.
Did Hammond have an injury?
No.
Okay, never mind. Anderson was the one with the injury.
Anderson was the one with the injury. Lehner is still injured.
I don't understand why he's starting Anderson. I mean, Anderson...
No, Hammond did have an injury. I think he hurt his back.
Maybe, but I mean,
he was
but
backing
not
up
enough.
last
He's
night.
not on the injury report to where he can't play.
Okay,
right.
Yeah. And Anderson's been banged up too. So I mean,
look, Anderson. Look, I'm going to put this simple because we got to wrap up because Jason's going to be coming out. Anderson, you lose games. Hamburglar has a lifetime subscription to McDonald's for free, okay? And that's a reason. McDonald's doesn't go around. It's not like this movie is Happy Hamburglar and Hamburglar's getting a free thing to Subway, okay? All right. It's just Ottawa, you want to win? Get the Hamburglar in net. Get back to winning. That's how it happens. It's funny when you see a goalie can change it. I mean, Nashville's perfect, all right? Nashville goes from a team that looks like they could be the best team in the Western Conference to one of the worst teams in the conference, just depending on their netminder. I don't care what you want to say about a goalie can carry their team all the way and that kind of stuff. There's a certain dynamic about certain goalies in the league where teams just play better, regardless of shots on the ice with certain goalies in net, whether it's starting an attack from one end to the other or what's going on. But I think Nashville sets it best. What happened to Nashville their last game?
They got smacked by Calgary because Carter Hutton was in net.
And how often do they get smacked when Carl Hutton is in net?
Most of the time. I mean, they barely beat Toronto the time he was in before.
Part of that's because Pekkarini is such a great goaltender. But and Nashville said this before, too, from a lot of their media. Nashville has said there's just something different when Renee's in net. And he's a great goaltender.
It frees them up because, I mean, they
can take more chances.
Yeah, they can take more risks.
It's all about positioning now in the playoffs. They've clinched a playoff spot, so they could start Carter Hutton the rest of the season, and then play Pekkarini through the playoffs.
How far are they out of the division lead?
They're in the division lead right now. They're ahead by 3.
They're still
that's important.
They're
for them,
still technically fighting for the President's Trophy.
That is so important to them because the difference between having to play Chicago versus like Calgary or Winnipeg, like that's just ginormous.
They would right now be matched up with Minnesota.
Okay,
and I think Minnesota
that would not be good for them.
No, that wouldn't be good for them.
That would be bad.
Actually,
I would almost even
Minnesota's
maybe
bad for
Chicago.
everyone. And by the way, Minnesota may catch Chicago. I don't know if we talked about that.
Oh yeah, they were
one
yesterday before the Chicago Blackhawks played. They were in the lead, and now Chicago is ahead of them again.
Let's be real. Let's be realistic right now. They're going to play Minnesota or Chicago.
None of the Western matchups are really set. Whereas in the East, it kind of is.
If they could catch Chicago without some of the big names still in play, I think they have a chance against Chicago. If they played Minnesota in the first round, don't even count on it. I'd pick Minnesota in a heartbeat.
Dubnik's playing too well. But any other final thoughts? All right, we got the Sabres facing the Coyotes tonight. Who are you going to have win in this situation?
Honestly, Buffalo's a horrible road team.
They're a terrible team.
Yeah, well, they're bad. They're bad
even worse on the road, though.
Oh boy. Okay, so you got the Coyotes, Derek.
I'm going to say the Coyotes again. For me to have the evil wishes that I want, Buffalo has to do something that they can't, and it ends here tonight.
4-1 Buffalo.
I'm gonna say
4-1.
Coyotes in overtime because I don't know if Shane Doan has an ulterior motives.
I'm gonna go with
Well, he'll be
3-2
playing.
regulation victory Buffalo. Lindbach's in net tonight, folks, and
That
Lindbach.
sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think it's going to be a tighter race than people think. I think Ennis is supposedly playing from the latest.
I thought I heard he
I
wasn't.
thought he
Is he
wasn't.
not?
No,
Okay.
he's not.
The last report I saw was from 4:30, and they said he was on the bench getting ready to skate. So
Yeah, I think I after he skated,
He's been
he said he
trying to
couldn't go.
skate, but
Yeah.
Edmonton up 1-0 on Colorado. Just a month ago.
nobody's worried about Edmonton
yeah,
anymore.
Edmonton's
No.
not a threat anymore.
In all realism, Edmonton just
Derek
keeps
Roy, free drinks for life.
and Edmonton keeps showing that that a team they could be if their GM was any smart, especially with Taylor Hall producing on the third line. Dear God, Taylor Hall.
what?
Taylor Hall's producing points, arguably some of the best he has game he's played all year, being on the third line for the Oilers right now. That should scare people when the Oilers have three good lines and potential defensive players. If they had potential defensive players, they could be a competitive team in the West. But Craig McTavish is an idiot. I'm sorry, that's just how it is.
That's
He's an
fact.
idiot.
See if
It's
he can
okay.
find some sort of pill that Garth Snow took during the offseason. He can repeat
I don't
that.
think anybody's arguing with your point there, Lipa.
No, I don't think so either.
No.
And I don't think there's a Johnny Boychuk pill that or a Letty pill that's going to be out there this offseason that McTavish can get quick fix because Snow. Because Snow got a
There
little
we
lucky.
go.
Snow got a little lucky that every other team was like, we don't need these guys. Grabowski, it's okay. Toronto thinks he's Russian, so he sucks, obviously.
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen the Islanders as of recent, so they do have some problems. But that being said,
Group Powell to end the show.
that's that quick haul. Everybody, all right? We're all.
Oh, good.
Is everybody rooting for the Coyotes tonight?
I don't know if
I mean,
Chris
I'm not.
is.
I'm not rooting for them, but I just know it's going to happen.
All right.
They're gonna. Arizona's gonna win.
This one's-
I'm
they're
still
gonna
cheering
win.
for Buffalo.
This one's
Thank
for
you,
the
Frank.
Yotes.
Thank you, Frank.
Ooh. All right, that one's for
This
the
is
Yotes.
dumb.
Chris, embrace it, baby. It's just the way it is.
Chris, you're going down to no volume on your microphone.
Oh, man. Chris,
Haha. I found another one.
You're going down on that one too.
Well, I've got this.
and
thing
your final
unlocked.
one too.
it's Studio B Nick Lippa over in Studio A. All right, our Studio B Nick Lippa over in Studio B was Chris Kowalczyk. I got words. Anyways, 91.3 FM WBNY. This has been Neutral Ice. We are the best hockey show in Buffalo. We're not afraid to flaunt it at all. We'll be hitting it hard coming in next week because a lot of draft talk to be happening. But hockey's really entertaining now, guys. And besides the Sabres sucking, there's a lot of really good teams out there. So stay tuned. We'll have all your updates before and after the playoffs here on 91.3 FM WBNY.